Okay, so welcome everybody. We'll go ahead and just start off with some brief introductions. My name is Brittany Ferguson, and I'm the Senior Academic Advisor for the Fowler School of Engineering. I also have my colleagues here, James Maddock, he's the Senior Academic Advisor for Undeclared Exploratory Students. And then we also have Eric, Ivan, and Andrea here from admissions to help answer any questions that you all might have. So just know as I go through the presentation, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see an area where it says Q&A. Throughout the presentation, please feel free to go ahead and type in any questions that you have because James, Eric, Ivan, and Andrea will be answering them for you all. And then if we notice that there's some common themes in terms of, what questions are being asked, we'll go ahead and also answer those aloud. Additionally, I just wanted to point out that if any of you attended the preview day in-person session this past weekend, just know that this presentation is covering the exact same information that was, discussed during preview day. So again, you're not going to be learning any new information. It's going to just be covering the same thing from this past Saturday. So we'll go ahead and get started. So we're going to talk a little bit about preparing for academic advising. Next page. All right, so today we're going to be looking at Chapman's bachelor's degree program. We're going to do a brief overview of the GE program. I know a lot of you are coming in with AP IB credit scores, so we'll kind of go over that. Transfer credit, so if you had dual credit from high school or if you're a transfer student, we'll look at that together. Major requirements in the course catalog. We'll go over how academic advising is structured at Chapman. We're going to go over how summer advising and registration is going to work. And we'll discuss other helpful offices on campus and then hopefully have some time left over to answer any questions. And then just note that throughout the presentation, I do have QR codes posted usually on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. So if you feel like the information is relevant to you, please make sure you have your phone ready so you can take a picture of the slide so that you can reference that QR code and that website information at a later time. Okay, so at Chapman University, in order to graduate with a bachelor's degree, all students need to earn a minimum of 120 credits to get their degree. So a common question I get asked from students is, what do I need to do to get to the 120 credits? So you will essentially need to complete a certain amount of credits towards your general education coursework. Then you're going to have credits that you need to complete for your major. And at Chapman, all students need to have an exploration focus to graduate. So that refers to either a second major, a minor, a themed inquiry, or the honors program. So again, depending on which exploration focus you decide to declare, that'll be additional coursework that you have to complete. And the goal is that hopefully with those three things, it'll bring you to the minimum 120 credits that you need to graduate. All right, so for Chapman's GE program, students are required to complete the following general education coursework. So the first class that students have to complete is the first year foundations course, which is a 3-credit class. Realistically, they should be taking it in the fall semester. And the reason that I always tell students to take it in fall is just because there's more course offerings. But if you can't get into it in the fall semester, it's also fine if you take it in spring. The purpose of the FFC class, it's designed to strengthen critical thinking skills. So again, it's there to kind of prepare you for, doing college level work, and topics will vary. Certain majors are required to complete specific FFC courses. So for example, my students in the College of Engineering, they have to complete FFC 100B grand challenges. But for like some other majors, like business majors, I'm pretty sure they can just choose whichever topic that they'd like to take. And something that's important to note is if you're a transfer student, this requirement can get waived for you if you're transferring to Chapman with over 24 credits. And that 24 credits has to exclude dual credit that you took in high school or like AP IB credit. And again, I have a QR code here that you can scan. So if you do happen to have, want to reference this later to look more at the FFC, you could do that. An additional part of the GE program is the liberal arts and science focus. So that's going to be an 18 to 19 credit section. So classes in the liberal arts and science focus area consist of artistic inquiry, which is going to be a 3-credit class. You're going to have quantitative inquiry. So again, that's basically the math requirement. That's going to be 3 credits. You're going to have a natural science inquiry, so that's going to be 3 to 4 credits. And the reason that it ranges with credits is because if you're taking a class that has a lab, such as biology, you'll have the lecture in the lab. For social inquiry, that's going to be a 3 credit class. You're going to have values and ethical inquiry, which is 3 credits, and then written inquiry, which is 3 credits. So a lot of times when students are coming to Chapman with AP or IB credit, a lot of the times that AP IB credit scores, it'll go towards satisfying one of these GE categories. The next GE area that we have is global focus. So this entire section is worth 12 to 18 credits. So the first area up is global studies inquiry, which is a 6 credit section. So students can complete the global studies inquiry requirement. If you decide to study abroad for an entire semester, the global study requirement can be waived for you. Let's just say you don't really want to go abroad for an entire semester, but you would like to go abroad at least, maybe like during summer or interterm. Just going abroad that one time, it could satisfy 3 credits towards this requirement. So sometimes I've had students in the past where they did 2 travel abroad courses during their time here at Chapman to fulfill this requirement. The other option, of course, is if you have no desires to go abroad, that's completely fine. You would just take 2 global studies approved courses here at Chapman, or if you wanted to take it like at a community college during summer, that's also completely fine. You also have your citizenship community service inquiry, so that's going to be a 3 credit class. And then you're going to have a language inquiry, which can range from 3 to 9 credits, depending on your prior language study. So all students at Chapman are required to complete a language that's excluding English that has to be completed at the 201 level. So for example, if you're a student and you decide to take Spanish to fulfill this requirement, depending again on your previous language experience, like let's just say you don't really have much experience with Spanish, you would plan to enroll in Spanish 101. Then the next class you would enroll in would be Spanish 102. And then finally, it's going to be Spanish 201 that satisfies this language inquiry requirement. So I do want to take some time to go over language placement tests versus proficiency tests. We know that a lot of students are coming into Chapman with previous language experience. So let's just say, you're in high school right now and you just took 3 years of Spanish. It would probably make sense if you decided to continue with Spanish to take the Spanish placement test here at Chapman to see if you could test out of Spanish 101 or 102, so that instead of doing 3 semesters of foreign language, you might only have to do 2 semesters or 1 semester, again, depending on your score. So again, the language placement test is really for students who maybe already have experience in a language, primarily maybe like high school, or if you took some lower division language courses at a community college, if you're a transfer student and you want to continue with the same language, it would make sense to take the language placement test. The other option we have is a proficiency test, and this is going to be for students who are fluent in a language outside of English. So proficiency tests would be offered at 2 other institutions, and basically you would have to pay a fee at that institution to take the exam. And assuming that you pass the test since you're fluent, so when you're fluent, that means you could read, write, and speak the language. The language inquiry would just be waived for you. So again, you would not earn any credit for language inquiry. It would just be waived. So I know this gets confusing sometimes for students, but just remember that language placement tests, the best case scenario is you would test into a 201 level, which means you still need to complete a language class, versus a proficiency test is for students who are fluent in another language. And for those students, they're hoping that their score will just waive the requirement for them. Next, we have an exploration focus. So at the minimum, it's going to be 12 credits to complete this. But again, it can range depending on what exploration focus you decide to pursue. So all students are required to complete either a second major, minor, a themed inquiry, or honors program to graduate from Chapman. The main difference between a minor and a themed inquiry is how many credits it takes to complete it. So like minors at Chapman range from 18 to 30 credits, whereas a themed inquiry would be 12 credits. So again, depending on what your primary major is, it would be a good idea to discuss your interests with your academic advisor. This way we can, let you know if it's possible to graduate on time based off of your major and exploration focus of interest. Your exploration focus needs to be declared by the time you earn 60 credits. So basically that means you should be planning to declare the exploration focus like the second semester of your sophomore year. So again, right before you become a junior. Students are encouraged to research potential options for completing their exploration focus early on. And honestly, this is kind of due to the fact that, again, and it kind of all goes back to what is your primary major going to be. So like for my college, with engineering students, we have some of the largest credit majors on campus. So if you're trying to do a double major, it's good for me to know that information sooner than later, so that this way we can see if it's possible to even graduate on time with a double major. Whereas some other majors, since they're lower in credits, you might have a little bit more flexibility in terms of when you could start taking the exploration focus classes. Lastly, want to point out that an exploration focus can be in a different college or within the same college, but this would exclude themed inquiries. So for those of you who are interested in pursuing a themed inquiry, it has to be outside of your major discipline. But like, again, for my engineering students, if they wanted to have a major in engineering and a minor within the engineering college, that's completely fine. So how to look up AP IB score credit. So students can potentially satisfy some general education, major or minor requirements through their AP IB scores. And students can visit Chapman's AP IB website to view the required scores to receive credit towards their degree. So again, if you scan this QR code right here, it'll take you to our AP IB website. So I attached a little screenshot right here that shows you what it would look like. So if you were a student and you took AP English, language and comp, or English literature and comp, it shows you the minimum score that is required in order for you to receive credit for the class. So for this student who took AP English language and comp, they got a score of 4. That means that that would be the equivalent of English 103 here at Chapman. So the student would earn 3 credits for that AP class, and they would also satisfy their written inquiry GE. So it is very handy. So I would recommend that if you are planning to come to Chapman with a lot of AP IB credits, to look at this webpage so that you can already kind of get a sense of which GE categories you might satisfy with those scores. How classes transfer to Chapman. So some students can potentially satisfy some general education, major or minor requirements through dual credit that you took in high school, or coursework taken at another college if you're a transfer student. Students can view what requirements they will satisfy with their completed coursework right now by using Transferology, or you can wait to view your transfer credit report in your student center, and that'll only be available after you matriculate to Chapman. But in the meantime, if you scan this QR code, it'll take you to the website that kind of shows you how to use Transferology. And then basically you would put in the coursework that you've taken, if you've taken it at like another college, and it'll let you know what kind of credit you can anticipate receiving for that class. So for this student, as you can see, they attended Santa Monica College. So it shows you the classes that they took at Santa Monica College and how these classes transferred over to Chapman. So for this student, usually the areas that most students care about is what kind of GE categories can I satisfy with my previous coursework. This student took an art history course, so we can see that the registrar's office coded this class as being able to satisfy either artistic inquiry or social inquiry. They took an English class at Santa Monica College, and it looks like, again, this could satisfy either artistic inquiry or written inquiry. And then lastly, they took a calculus class, which could satisfy their quantitative inquiry. So again, you wouldn't see this unless you matriculated. So this will be available to every student in their student center. But in the meantime, at least you can check the Transferology website to get an idea of what you can anticipate receiving credit for. So how advising works at Chapman. Every student at Chapman has a dedicated academic advisor that's assigned to you based on your major. And even undeclared majors have their own academic advisor. So for those of you who might have joined late, James Maddock, he's here in the session with me. He would be the advisor for undeclared majors. Your academic advisor can help you with the following items. So the thing that will probably be helping you all with most recently is going to be like math and language placement, since that is a little bit more time sensitive for incoming students. Additionally, during summer, we're going to be assisting you all with registration questions and concerns. Moving beyond summer registration, all of us academic advisors can help you interpret your program evaluations. And a program evaluation basically contains all of your GE coursework, your major coursework, and whatever you decide to declare for an exploration focus, it'll all be on your program evaluation. So that this way you can keep track of what coursework you've completed and what coursework you still have remaining. We can also help answer any questions related to general education requirements, major requirements, exploration focus requirements, and then overall just answer that question of, are you staying on track for graduation? All of us academic advisors, we're the most knowledgeable in terms of being able to answer questions about university policies and procedures. And then lastly, if you ask a question that's not something that we can really answer, we can help you navigate other departments and like refer you to other departments this way. You're never wondering who you should talk to. We can always direct you to the appropriate person. In addition to academic advisors, there are other types of advisors and campus resources available at Chapman. The first one is faculty mentors. So this isn't somebody who would be assigned to you. This would be like, let's just say you have professors in your department and you develop a good relationship with them. You can go ahead and introduce yourself, talk to them, and then they can introduce you to things such as research projects and academic opportunities. If you planned on going to grad school in the same major discipline, I would probably recommend talking to one of those faculty mentors that you've developed that relationship with to get some suggestions or recommendations on how to be a competitive candidate for grad school. Or if you just know that you plan on entering the workforce after graduating, again, you can talk to them about maybe that process and how it was for them. Another kind of resource that we have are peer mentors or peer advisors. So these are going to be current students who are declared in the major or minor who can pass on wisdom gained from their personal experience. So like within the Fowler School of Engineering, our peer advisors are all, I believe, seniors. And basically they can meet with students and kind of help them plan out, when to take your classes. They can give more detailed information about professors, and if you tell the students like what your learning style is, the peer advisors can use, again, their own personal wisdom from having taken these professors to offer suggestions on, what professors you should probably take that match up with like your learning style. Lastly, there are specialized advisors. So examples of this could be study abroad advisors. So there is a specific advisor per college that helps with studying abroad. And if you're a student who plans on going into like pre-med, pre-health, or pre-law tracks, there's someone there to help you with that process as well. When should you meet with your advisor? So if you're an incoming student, either a first year or a transfer student, you have to meet with your academic advisor between mid-May and the end of June. Beyond this summer, it's recommended that students meet with their academic advisor every semester. And ideally, you should do this well before registration. So again, like registration right now is taking place for our students. So they should have been meeting with us probably in February or March, just to already kind of plan out what they should be doing for the fall. Especially if you have a challenging pathway to graduation, because, we're here to all assist you and we want to make sure that you're successful in getting the classes you need. You should be meeting with an academic advisor when you're thinking of changing majors or adding a major or minor. So as some of you might remember, I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, for engineering majors, they're some of the largest credit majors on campus. So I always tell my students, as soon as you know what you might be interested in pursuing for an exploration focus, you really should be meeting with me as soon as possible so that we can try and develop an academic plan that works for them. And then lastly, if you're concerned about your academic performance, definitely meet with your academic advisor sooner than later. the sooner you meet with an advisor, the more options we can offer to you in order to like address that issue and hopefully, get you back on track so that you do well in finishing the class. And although right now none of us academic advisors are advising incoming students, just know that there is this website for if you do decide to come to Chapman, if you scan it, you would just select the major that you're coming into Chapman as, and it'll let you know who your assigned academic advisor is going to be. But like I said, mandatory advising is not going to start taking place until about mid-May. Okay, course catalogs. So I know a common question I always get asked by students is what is required of me, to take for my major or for my minor. So in addition to this information being listed like on a program evaluation, which students could access in their student center, you can also view this information by looking at the course catalog. So I did provide the QR code for the course catalog, but just kind of keep in mind that this course catalog, it only shows the 2024 catalog year. So for students who are coming in on the 2024-2025 catalog year, that's not going to be made available online until this summer. But again, if you just kind of want to get a sense of what kind of coursework you'd be taking, I think it's worth looking at. So again, I just use computer science as the example. So if you look at the computer science catalog, it lets students know minimum GPA requirements for their major coursework. And then it already kind of lists out the classes that you'd have to take and then how many credits each class would be worth. And then additionally, if you were to click on the class, it'll let you know if there's any prerequisite courses that you need to complete first in order to take the class. So again, this is just going to be kind of like a standard document that you'd be able to find online. However, I always recommend that students look at their program evaluation to see what they've already completed and what they have remaining. So for this student who's a computer science major, you could see that they still have Math 215 remaining because it says not satisfied. You could see that they completed Computer Science 230 because they already earned a grade. And then you could see that they were enrolled in Computer Science 231 because it says in progress. So again, this is going to be a live document that keeps you up to date with what you have in progress, what you've already completed, and what you have remaining. In addition to course catalogs and your program evaluation, all major departments on campus have suggested four-year plans available online. Again, the only ones available right now are from the 2023-2024 catalog year. So just kind of keep that in mind that your specific year is not made available yet. But these plans, again, they're just suggested. So it's not like you have to follow it to a T. It's just to kind of provide more structure so that you have an idea of what major classes you should be taking every semester to stay on track for graduation. Additionally, for some majors, it's more important to make sure you're creating that plan early on and sticking to it. And that's just because for certain majors, and I want to say a lot of times it's going to be the STEM majors, your courses are not offered every semester. So there's almost like a sequence in which you need to take them. Additionally, again, for more STEM majors, you have to have prerequisites already completed in certain classes before you can move on to the next classes. So for this example, I use business administration majors. So as you can see, the major department, they tell students in year one, fall semester, you should be planning to enroll in Math 109 and Econ 200. And then in the spring semester, you should be planning on enrolling in Econ 201, Accounting 210, and Com 219. The other thing to keep in mind if you do decide to reference the suggested four-year plans is, again, these are only for major classes. So as you can see, there's no GE classes listed on here. There's no second major or minor classes listed on here. This is strictly just so that you have an idea of when to take your major classes. So again, even more of a reason to touch base with your academic advisor so that you have a very comprehensive plan in knowing what to enroll in. So how summer advising works. Students who plan to attend Chapman in the fall will complete mandatory academic advising beginning on May 13th, and this will go through the end of June. All students, whether you're first a first year or a transfer student, you have to attend a virtual advising session or an individual appointment, have your advising hold lifted before registration takes place in July. If you do not attend that mandatory meeting with your academic advisor, that hold that's on your account will prevent you from being able to register for your classes in July. So again, it is important to make sure that you're paying attention to the emails that are going to be coming to your email starting, like I said, May 13th. So you're going to receive an email with a link to schedule a virtual advising session appointment. And the good news is that we're going to be sending a lot of registration email reminders throughout summer. But again, that's why it's important to make sure you're regularly checking them so that you can sign up for one of those sessions with your specific advisor. So how summer registration works continued. First year students will be pre-registered into their major courses, and this will be all first year students except students who are French majors, music majors, religious studies majors, and Spanish majors. So again, if you're any other major except for those ones I just listed, you will be pre-registered into your major courses. If you are a transfer student, you will be registering for all of your classes on your own. You will not be pre-registered into any classes. All students are required to complete math placement exams in May and June. And it's very important to take this math placement exam seriously because you're only going to be allowed to take the exam once. And the math department, they do offer a placement test, or sorry, a practice test for you to be able to take. So I would recommend that you practice with the practice exam first so you kind of know what to expect. This way that you can do the best job you can on that math placement test, because not taking it seriously and not passing the test could lead to you having to take an additional math course, which would be an introductory math course, which essentially is a introductory math class that you need to take in order to move on to like college level math. Students are going to register themselves in GE courses or other non-major courses online in early July. All students are going to receive a registration appointment, so it'll tell you the specific date and time. And these registration appointments are going to be assigned randomly and they cannot be changed. So I wanted to like highlight that and emphasize that because I know every year there's always a student where they mention, oh, I'm going to be on vacation, during my specific like registration appointment. Can it be changed? No, it cannot. So just make sure that you plan accordingly. Or if you're going to be in an area where you don't have access to internet, I would say trust in either a parent or a family member or a friend who can enroll you in those classes that you already have like in your shopping cart so that this way you can get the classes that you need. And then lastly, registration is going to take place between July 8th and through July 11th. Our summer registration works continued. So if you visit the new students website, there's a checklist and it provides steps that you need to take to get ready for attending Chapman. It is recommended that incoming students check their Chapman email frequently, and that's because some departments on campus will be reaching out to provide you with additional information or reminders that might be like major department specific. And we know that it's difficult dealing with all of this like incoming information and it's just a lot. So we try and make it easier. We do have a Chapman undergraduate advising Instagram account. So we try and break up all of this information in smaller posts so that's just more easily digestible. So for those of you who are interested, you can follow us at CU_undergrad advising. And again, we post information the ones that'll be most relevant to you will be steps that you need to take during summer to prepare for registration in July. And then just, reminders about the math placement test and reminders about the language exam. So that'll be what you see probably most often during summer. And then during the main semesters, we always post things such as important university reminders, such as the last day that you can add a class, the last day that you could drop a class. Some departments, they'll share information about opportunities that they might have, like if they're hiring for peer advisors or study abroad opportunities. So again, it's a nice way to stay connected with the campus. Other helpful offices on campus, I definitely would take a picture of this webpage because I know that these are the departments that students most often are working closely with. The first one is financial aid. So just know if you have any questions that's specific about your financial aid or scholarships, your academic advisors cannot answer these questions. So you would have to speak to someone in the financial aid office. So that's their email for you right there. Another department that's closely related with financial aid is student business services. So if you have any questions about paying for your tuition or setting up like tuition payment plans, things of that nature, I would recommend, again, making a note of that email. The other department that you're going to be working with pretty much regularly throughout the summer is going to be the registrar's office, just making sure that your transcripts from either high school or if you attended other colleges are on file. Next is disability services. So definitely reach out to this department after depositing if you believe you're going to need these services. So like, for example, if you know that you're a student and you require extra time to take tests, ideally you already need to have that additional test time set up so that you have that additional time to take the math placement exam or the language placement exam during summer because, we don't want you to be set up for failure. So just make sure that you're proactive with reaching out to that department and getting this additional test taking time set up if it applies to you. Next department is residence life. So if you have any questions about student housing, you would reach out to this department. Beyond summer and when you're actually here in the fall semester, some other departments that are really popular on campus is tutoring and learning center. So if you feel like you're a student and you're struggling in some of your coursework, just know that there's tutoring that you can attend weekly. And if you go to their website, they also show you the subjects that they offer tutoring in. Next is the Center for Global Education. So this is basically our study abroad office. So we know that we have a lot of students who are interested in studying abroad. So if you're not really sure how to begin with this entire process, if you go to their main website or just email them, they'll tell you like the first steps that you need to take to begin that process. Next, we have the Career and Professional Development Center. So at this center, if you planned on, for example, going to grad school, you can meet with some of their individuals and they can help you with creating a resume, a CV. They can do like mock interviews. If you had to write a statement of purpose to apply to grad school, they can review that and give you some tips. If you didn't really plan on going to grad school, but again, you plan on entering the workforce, they also do mock interviews and reviewing, like I said, resumes and CVs. Additionally, if you plan on completing an internship while you're here at Chapman, you would be working with that department. And then lastly, just know we do have psychological counseling services. So if at any point you feel like you're experiencing mental health issues throughout the semester, we do have counselors available to assist with that. So for additional questions, if you have specific questions to your own academic history, you would want to contact your admissions counselor for additional assistance. So if you're not really sure who your admissions counselor is, if you scan this QR code right here, it'll basically direct you to who that specific individual is. So I'll leave that up just for a second. Okay. And that's pretty much the end of the presentation. But if anyone happened to have questions, we can go through them. Have you seen any, James, that have been really common?
We answered about 20 questions. There was one that I didn't have an answer for. They asked about, are we able to share that PowerPoint with them, this presentation slides with them?
So I do know that this presentation is being recorded and you'll be able to access the recording at a later date. I'm not sure, Eric, Ivan, or Andrea, if you know which website specifically it's going to be posted on.
We have it listed in the chat. Let me throw it up in the main area as well. It was thrown into the answer to the question, but I'll put it in the main chat for everyone.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Somebody asked if you could share the slide with the graph of the GE major.
Yeah, sure. Let me
yeah.
go back to it 1 second. All right, so let me go here and share. This was the one that they asked for, right, James?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And if anyone needs me to go back to a previous slide, just let me know and I'd be more than happy to do that. And then as a reminder, I'll just put it on the agenda page so that this way, if there's a specific slide that you wanted to see, I can go back to that. I guess I could read out some questions then to see if there's any that haven't been answered. So let me stop sharing that real quick. So I'll answer this question live. Where do you find the math practice exam? There's going to be the math placement website. If it's not going to be listed there, I'm assuming it's going to be in your Canvas for you to take it there. And how do we take the math placement exam? So again, the math placement exam is not available to incoming students yet. So I believe both the math placement exam and the language placement exam are going to be made available starting May 13th. So you're going to start seeing all those email reminders coming in, encouraging you to take those tests. And I'm assuming the way that it's going to be set up is like when you click the link, or it'll tell you specifically where to go to so that you could take the test. But I believe, like I said, it should be in your Canvas. Let's see. Another question we got asked is thinking about double majoring in communication studies and public relations. Do any of these classes in this major overlap? Off the top of my head, I can't think of any, but if you remember when I showed the course catalog page, what you could do is look up the communication studies major requirements, and then in a second web browser, look up the public relations requirements and see if any of the classes look like they're the same. Let's see. Sure. So I also had another question. Can you reshare the QR code for advisor lookup? I can do that. So just give me 1 second. So let me share the screen. So this is going to be the slide where you can access the QR code to see who your assigned academic advisor is going to be. But just as a reminder, us academic advisors, we are not meeting with incoming students right now or advising them right now. So if you do happen to have any questions prior to mid-May when advising does open up, you should be reaching out to your admissions counselor. But I'll stop sharing now off of this slide. Let's see. I can answer this question. Somebody wanted to know if I can go over a themed inquiry again. So the main difference, or if you remember, I said that all students are required to complete an exploration focus to graduate from Chapman. So an exploration focus is either a second major, a minor, a themed inquiry, or the honors program. So for students who decided to do a themed inquiry, it's going to be 12 credits. And it has to be outside of your major discipline. And there is a themed inquiry website. So it's not like you wouldn't know what it's going to be. So if you meet with your academic advisor, we can share that website with you and you can go through them. But like I said, for that one, it has to be outside of your major discipline. So more commonly, I see more students doing like minors or second majors. The only time students usually do a themed inquiry is if they are a high credit transfer student coming in as maybe a junior. And a lot of times the only reason they do a themed inquiry is because they wouldn't be able to graduate on time if they were to do a second major or a minor. Let's see. So we had a question from a student saying regarding the math exam, if I took calculus and received direct college credit from Chapman, I believe, would the exam be waived or do I still have to take it? So for the most part, all students are required to take the math placement exam. The exception to that would only be if you took like an AP math class, like your junior year of high school, or if you did college level math and you already had completed it with a grade that's on file. Then at that point, as long as we see your AP score on file or you have that math class already completed, you don't need to take the math placement test. If you took like an AP Calc or AP Stats test this semester, your AP scores will not be on file until sometime in July. So in that situation, you should plan to take the math placement test. So again, as long as you already have a score for AP IB on file, or you already completed a college level math and earned a grade for it, at that point, you don't have to take it. But just know if we don't have your AP IB score on file, or we don't have that transcript from that college on file that shows that you already completed math, it could delay you getting that hold removed. So that could create issues with registration in July. So hopefully that answered that question. We have another question from a student who said, are the math language placement exams taken online or at Chapman? Both of them are going to be taken online. And like I said, I believe it's through your Canvas. So somebody said, what is the Canvas? So if you go to Chapman's main website, just like chapman.edu, in the upper right-hand corner, you would see a paw print. And then if you click on it, it'll just say Canvas. So once you're officially like a matriculated student and you decide to come to Chapman, you would just log in with your student information and it'll take you to your Canvas. So once you start enrolling in classes, your professors, they would put like your class information and everything in Canvas. Let's see. So done that. There's another student who asked a question. They said, I guess what I mean is if you add up GE units, major requirements, in this case, business plus an exploration focus, it should work out to 120 credits, if not more. Some students are worried about having to pay for additional time here at Chapman. So again, we understand that that's a valid concern for students. So that's why it's recommended that you meet with your academic advisor once a semester to make sure that you're always, staying on track of your plan so that, the more frequently you're meeting with us, the more opportunities we have to potentially let you're going to be behind for graduation. You might need to do summer school or interterm or something like that. So, that's why I can't stress enough the importance of meeting with an academic advisor. Let's see. We have another good question from a student. Is the themed inquiry the same as an emphasis area for a major? No, it is not. So I know a lot of times when I meet with business majors, they think because they're doing business finance, that would satisfy the themed inquiry. It's not the same thing. So remember, a themed inquiry has to be outside of your major discipline. So if you were a business major or a Dodge major, you wouldn't be able to do a themed inquiry that's in business or in like film classes. It has to be in something completely different. Let's see. A good question from another student, does this path apply to APEX students? So that's like pre-pharmacy students. No, it does not. So your pathway is going to be different in the coursework that you're going to take. I believe, James, you can correct me if I'm wrong, APEX students don't take GE classes in the way that other students do. But also you have a dedicated advisor within the pre-pharmacy program. So they would be able to answer more like detailed questions that you might have about your program.
Brittany, there's I was gonna say there's a couple technical questions where people saying they're not able to access Canva. Any advice for those students?
I would think that they can't access it because they haven't matriculated yet, right? That would be my assumption, but I don't know. Does the admissions people have any thoughts on that?
That's typically the process. All of those campus solutions, all of those pieces will become available once you have you've submitted your enrollment deposit and are ready to go with Chapman. If you're having issue, just connect with your admission counselor and we can see if there's any technical issue that's happening.
Perfect, thank you. Another good question that we got asked from a potential student is it possible to graduate early and not have to pay the 4 years of full tuition? Honestly, I would say it depends on the major exploration focus that you're trying to pursue. So I know I use like my majors as examples a lot, but it's just because they're some of the highest credit majors on campus. If you were trying to do a double major in computer science and graphic design, realistically, it would not be possible for you to graduate. Um, it probably wouldn't be realistic for you to graduate on 4 years, much less earlier. So again, I think that would be a conversation that I would recommend having with your assigned academic advisor, because it would depend on what's your first major and what's your exploration focus. Let's see. So we got another good question. Are there a lot of GE class options for each subject, or is there already a set schedule of classes? Every semester there's going to be a lot of different GEs that are offered, but usually the best way to know what's going to be offered is to check in your student center. But I would say there's usually a good variety of subjects that you can choose from. Let's see. I know, again, themed inquiries can be confusing for people, but another question was, does a themed inquiry have to be outside the major or outside the college that the major is in? The simple answer to that is yes, it does. And again, it's not something that you have to remember once you officially are a student here. When you look at your program evaluation, it'll let you know that themed inquiries have to be outside of your major discipline. So like, for example, if you were a mathematics major, you would not be allowed to complete the themed inquiry in math because again, it's the same subject. It would have to be something different. Another good question that's a student asked is how common is it for students to take more than 4 years to graduate? I mean, honestly, I don't have statistics of that, but I would say most of my students do graduate within 4 years. And they, like I said, have some of the highest credit majors on campus. I think the simplest answer in terms of just making sure that that's not an issue is, again, meeting regularly with your academic advisor to make sure that that's not going to be a potential hangup for you, or like a barrier for you. So as long as you're meeting with somebody, we'll do like everything in our power to make sure, you know, that you're staying on track for graduating on time. Another good question for clarification, we have to obtain the general education credits on top of our major credits to graduate. That is correct. All students have to complete the general education coursework. You have to complete your major coursework, and then you have to complete your exploration focus coursework. So again, by completing those 3 different areas, that should total hopefully to 120 credits minimum that you need to graduate with a degree. And then I'm just trying to see if I've skipped any questions. Did that one? I don't know if anyone like James or admissions, if you know how to share transcripts from this presentation.
The Q&A transcripts are challenging to share through the webinar, but
Okay.
that link that we have that will hold all of the virtual sessions, you'll be able to rewatch the session. That would probably be the best bet to see the questions being answered in the future.
Okay. And then we did that one. And then it looks like we're getting through a lot of the questions, but if anyone still has additional questions that haven't been answered, please feel free to like type them so I can, or we can all try and answer as many as we can within the next 10 minutes. A good question, can you double major while in the honors program? Again, I think it all goes down to what is your first major, but I have seen students before have a double major in the honors program, especially if you're going to be like in Wilkinson College. Those are usually lower credit majors. So for example, I could see a student who's like a political science major, maybe a communication studies major, and doing the honors program at the same time. But again, if you are going to be doing multiple things like that, I would just recommend meeting with your academic advisor so that we can help you create the most effective plan so that this way you could satisfy all of that coursework without having to potentially stay here additional semesters to complete everything. Another good question, can you get credits through any internships? Yes, you can. So you would have to work with the Career and Professional Development Center. And sometimes depending on your internship, you might just get like general elective credit. So that basically would count towards the 120 credits that you need to graduate, but it might not satisfy a specific major requirement. But again, if you just are looking for general elective credit, an internship's always like a good option. Let's see. Other question, when or how can I change my major? I want to stay in business, but change the emphasis. Honestly, when you first enter here in the fall semester, you're not going to be taking emphasis level coursework anyways. Usually that's going to be upper division classwork. So it's not like super imperative, but if you're fine, because I don't know if they're allowed to change emphasis before they get here. If you wanted to officially change it like in the fall semester, you could easily do that. That's not a problem. Let's see. So good question. Can a screenwriting major take a themed inquiry from Dodge outside screenwriting? Off the top of my head, I don't know of any themed inquiries that include film classes. So I don't think that that would even be an option for you. So again, there's a themed inquiry website. So if you just go to Chapman's main website, you could type in themed inquiries and it could take you to that webpage so you can see like the specific topics that Chapman offers for themed inquiry. So I'd probably recommend doing that. Let's see. So good question. If you're a health science major with a pre-physical therapy focus and are also an honors college, who would be your academic advisor? So for health science, there's only one advisor as of right now. So that's going to be Pablo Arias. So he would be your main academic advisor that you would meet with. If you had specific questions about if you're in the honors program, I believe it's going to be, I think it's Carmichael Peters, who's the program director. So if you needed like advising on the honors coursework, you would reach out to that individual. But again, I would say always the first point of contact should be your academic advisor because we can direct you to pretty much anybody on campus. And then just as a reminder for everyone, we have about like 5 minutes. So again, keep the questions coming. They're all great questions. And then I don't know if anyone, the other one just got answered. Okay, good question. Is it difficult to declare film and media studies as a minor? So I will mention, if you are trying to get into Dodge College, it is a very competitive college to get into, whether if you're applying for the major or the minor. Additionally, Dodge has very specific application criteria. So it's not impossible, but we always recommend that students have a backup major or minor in mind just in the event that you do get denied from their school. But again, when you get here in the fall semester, if that's something that you're interested in, I would recommend scheduling like a meeting with your academic advisor so they could go over the Dodge application process in detail with you. Another great question, when do you declare minors or a second major? So remember, if you're trying to do a second major, minor, themed inquiry, or the honors program, it needs to be declared before you earn 60 credits. So that basically means before you become a junior. So ideally, you should have that declared no later than second semester of your sophomore year. But if you come in the fall semester and you already know what you want to do for a minor, and if it's a minor that you can just declare automatically. So like for example, if you came in and you wanted to be an English minor in the fall semester, you would be able to declare that pretty much, I think starting the third week of the semester. If you wanted to declare it, you could do that. So usually what us academic advisors recommend is as soon as you know what you'd like to pursue for an exploration focus, it makes sense to declare it. And that's just so that your program evaluation can be updated to reflect the new coursework that you'd also have to complete for that specific second major, minor, themed inquiry, or the honors program. And then if anyone didn't have any additional questions, you're more than welcome to leave. But just know I'll stick around until 4 o'clock. So again, we can keep answering questions that you all might have for us. But yes, we hope that you found this session to be informative. And again, if you do have any follow-up questions, I can go back to sharing this slide for everyone. Let me share the screen again. Remember that if you have specific questions that are to your academic history, you're going to want to talk to your admissions counselor between now and mid-May. And then, like I said, starting mid-May, that's when you would start contacting your assigned academic advisor to sign up for your mandatory advising. So I'll stop. Sure. Oh, Eric, real quick. When you sent the link that was in the chat, didn't that only go to us?
I don't have opportunity to send it to the whole panel, but for those who are asking specifically, I was sending it to them individually.
Gotcha. Did you want me to change it real quick so that you can send it to everyone?
That'd be great.
Okay, so or maybe I can do it. Let me see if it'll let me. Okay, so hopefully
Perfect.
everyone got that one. Okay, let's see. There's a couple more questions. Yeah, so good question. Question is, I'm going to major in bio, but I also want a minor in television. Is there a whole application for the TV minor? Yes, anything in Dodge College has a separate application process. So again, that's something that you're going to want to discuss with your academic advisor when you get here in the fall semester. And that's just because for incoming first year students, you all are not even allowed to apply for anything in Dodge your first year. So that's something just to keep in mind as well. And that's usually because it's tied to a GPA requirement if you're interested in applying for a Dodge major or minor. Okay, great. So I don't think there's any other questions, but it was nice being able to talk to you all today. And again, don't hesitate to reach out to your admissions counselors if you have additional questions. And we hope that you found this session informative and can help you make a decision on if Chapman is the right place for you to be. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. And thank you to James, Eric, Ivan, and Andrea for helping out.